In the early hours of May 19, 2012, a luxury apartment in Sao Paulo became the scene of one of the most shocking crimes in Brazil's recent history. A crime that exposed secrets, betrayal, and a brutal ending that would haunt the nation. A wife, a millionaire husband, a marriage destroyed, and a night no one would ever forget. This is the dossier of the Elise Matsunaga case. Elise Araujo Kitano Matsunaga did not grow up surrounded by wealth. She came from a humble family in the countryside of Parana, where she faced financial hardship from an early age. She worked as a nursing technician, but her life took a drastic turn when she began working as a luxury escort. It was in this environment that she met Marcos Kitano Matsunaga, heir to one of Brazil's largest food empires, the Yoki Group. At the time, Marcos was married. What began as an extramarital affair soon became something more intense. Not long after, he left his wife to live with Elise. They married, had a daughter, and built a life that, on the surface, seemed perfect. Luxury trips, money, comfort, status. But behind the walls of the luxury apartment, the marriage was falling apart. Arguments became frequent. Marcos grew suspicious of Elise's past. Elise grew suspicious of Marcos's betrayals. What once began as passion slowly transformed into a relationship filled with tension, jealousy, and distrust. Days before the crime, Elise discovered that Marcos was involved with another woman. Even worse, there were signs that this woman might be pregnant. The discovery completely shattered Elise's emotional state. The marriage was already fragile. The confirmation of betrayal became the breaking point. On May 19, 2012, during a heated argument, everything spiraled out of control. According to Elise, Marcos advanced toward her during the fight. She claimed she was afraid. She claimed she acted in self-defense. In a moment of desperation, she grabbed a gun and pulled the trigger. The shot hit Marcos, and he collapsed onto the living room floor. But what happened next shocked Brazil in a way no one was prepared for. After the shooting, Elise entered a state of shock. It was at that moment that she made a decision that would turn the case into one of the most disturbing crimes in Brazilian history. Using her knowledge of human anatomy, acquired during her nursing studies, Elise dismembered her husband's body inside their own apartment. She placed the body parts into suitcases, drove to the Bandeirantes highway, and abandoned them at different locations along the road. The following morning, workers and residents discovered human remains scattered near the highway. Police were immediately called. Investigators quickly identified luggage tags that led to a name: Elise Matsunaga. Within days, the case dominated headlines across the country. The cold and calculated nature of the crime shocked even the most experienced investigators. Brazil watched every detail unfold. Elise's trial took place in 2016. Prosecutors argued that the crime was premeditated, carried out with cruelty and calculation. The defense, however, claimed that Elise lived in an abusive relationship marked by manipulation, threats, and psychological violence.
Quando que o seu casamento começou a desamar?
Quando eu descobri que ele tinha outra, eu ofendia. Falava que eu era uma falava que meu pai era um vagabundo. Ele saía, não dava muita bola. Eu acreditei que era por causa do trabalho, mas depois eu achei que estava alguma coisa estranha.
Você teve receio de morar com ele?
Tive um pouco. Tive, mas eu quis, porque eu amava. E ele falou que me amava muito e que não era pra eu ter medo. Com o computador aberto e tinha uma moça chamando ele no Skype. Eles tinham marcado encontro lá. Essa moça era funcionária. Eu descobri que estava grávida. Falei pra ele e aí ele pediu perdão, que ele não ia fazer mais. Logo depois que ela nasceu, alguns meses, ele começou a se afastar.
Quantos meses?
Ela tinha uns 6 meses. Ele era agressivo, grosseiro.
O que é agressivo? Te batia?
Não.
Agressão, que é verbal?
Isso.
They argued she acted in self-defense, driven by fear and desperation. The court heard testimonies, analyzed evidence, and examined the couple's daily life in detail. In the end, Elise Matsunaga was sentenced to 19 years and 11 months in prison for aggravated homicide and concealment of a corpse. She served part of her sentence at the Tremembe Women's Prison, where she became known for good behavior. In 2019, she was granted semi-open regime status. In 2022, she was released on parole. Since then, Elise has tried to rebuild her life away from the cameras, the courts, and public attention.
Bom, Elise, como é que você está se sentindo agora que finalmente você conseguiu a liberdade?
Muito, muito feliz mesmo de ter vencido essa etapa. Sei que terão outras, uma nova etapa agora com obrigações diferentes, mas estou muito feliz por ter vencido, pelas pessoas que me apoiaram, pelas pessoas que compreenderam. Infelizmente não posso consertar o que passou, o erro que cometi. Estou tendo uma segunda chance, infelizmente o Marcos não. Mas eu acredito na espiritualidade, que ele já tenha me perdoado, e peço isso todas as vezes em minhas orações. E muito obrigada pelo apoio, muito obrigada mesmo pelas pessoas que me compreendem, e muito obrigada aos meus advogados, à minha família, aos meus amigos, e obrigada mesmo.
Nunca mais voltar para aquele lugar, não é, Elise?
Nunca mais.
The Elise Matsunaga case remains one of the most debated and analyzed crimes of the last decade. A grim portrait of how love, betrayal, fear, and despair can lead to a tragic end. This was the dossier on the Elise Matsunaga case. If you want me to bring you another famous crime, another mystery, or another remarkable case, leave a like, subscribe, and continue following the World Dossier. Thank you for your attention.